Hello, I'm audible?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm audible properly?
Yeah. Am I
Yes,
audible?
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Archana Sogule. On behalf of Mahavir Education Trust, Shaha and Anchor Kachi Engineering College, I welcome you all for today's second sessions. It's my privilege to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Ujjwala Vora Madam. Ma'am currently working as Associate Director in SIDAC in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Ma'am completed PhD from Computer Science and Engineering Department of IIT Bombay. Ma'am also lead the Smart City and e-governance projects in the Software Engineering Division and Biometrics Division of SIDAC, Mumbai. Ma'am also the task force member of many MEITY initiatives such as Smart City, Clouds, e-governments and etc. Ma'am having more than 24 years of experience in various IT domains. Ma'am successfully completed more than 20 plus operational projects which include the mission mode and the national critical infrastructure projects. So now I request our today's speaker, Dr. Ujjwala Vora Madam, to start the sessions. It's over to you, Madam.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me here. And I do have some connection with Shah and Anchor Kachi because my husband has graduated from there. So in a way, connected in that way, though not known. From a civil department, not from IT. So it's okay.
Ma'am, you are
So
alumina. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I'll just share my presentation here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Is it visible?
Yes, madam.
Okay.
It's visible.
Yeah. Uh, as already you have given introduction of me, but just to be, I'm major my area of interest or areas which I've been teaching and working projects in software engineering, and especially the software architectures of complex systems, distributed systems is what I have my PhD also is in the same area. Biometrics is an additional charge it is given to me. So based because of these distributed architectures and all, when the smart city mission was started by MOHUA, it was earlier MOUD which started. So that time I got involved into that and was fortunate enough to work on more than one smart cities. Even this model RFP by MOUD and all everything we were part of that group. So we have seen the how the mission started and a lot of ground level issues whenever you are just only understanding technology domains is not enough in such projects because as you all know these are all very complex systems or the current trending term is system of systems basically. So that's what every modern system is going to be now. It's not going to be a single system working in isolation where it has some hardware and communication or network connectivity infrastructure and the users can interact with the software through the hardware. That era I think is getting over, and there is everywhere it is the multidisciplinary engineering which is going to be part of everybody's uh, work area or everybody's activities, day-to-day activities also. Not you don't have to be an IT professional for that. Every professional nowadays, you know, it has to be part of IT ICT spectrum of activities. So I was, as I said, I was fortunate enough to be part of more than one smart cities. We are the PMC team for Mangalore Smart City. Was part of PMC team for, though it was not a smart city, it was Smart Industrial Port City of Kandla. And Eluru, so though it was not part of smart city, but the administration there was very interested in getting the smart city kind of infrastructure ready there. So that's why, and all these three cities actually had a lot of different kind of requirements. As I was telling, only knowing the means only knowing the technology or methodology is not enough in these kind of systems, unless and until you know the ground level realities, the gaps in the processes, and that will only facilitate in getting a design which is useful, effective, and the most important, which most of the government projects miss or get short onto, is sustainability. So there are so many kind of projects which, like, I'm in CEDAC for last 23 years. So many government initiatives, they start with lot of interesting ideas, and lot of good people put lot of efforts, but sustainability gets missed on, and then the whole mission doesn't get through. So why I'm talking about so much of process here right now, because the along with IoT, the second part of it, that is machine learning, is basically facilitates that to a large extent. Rather, it is supposed to be driving these kind of systems where sustainability, resilience can be introduced in these systems. I know these words are not so much related to what kind of technology we are looking into, but if you miss on that, if you miss on having those processes inculcated in your design, then these systems somehow lose their efficiency, lose their effectiveness, and all the efforts tend to go waste. So this is like what experiences I have been seeing, is I would like to share with you. So this is very informal talk, something which I feel ki, whatever I have seen, and that's only I'm going to share with you. And as I think I talk to your team, we will take the questions in the end, because with age I tend to forget what I was talking. So not to miss that thread or of thought or what, and I'll just request if you have your questions or anything, please write it down, and we can I think in an hour or so we can finish this, and then we can have discussions on whatever points you feel we need to discuss on. So I'll just start my session, right? Is it okay?
Yes, madam. You can continue.
Yeah. So this is a broad outline of what I will cover, or what points I will discuss today. And as I said, it's more than technology. What I would like to discuss is, in my project, what are the kind of experiences I face, so that just to have the support from technology side, how it can be resolved, whatever the gaps are, how they can be reduced, how they can be mitigated, and a system can be more effective. So from that, I'll just talk what is IoT in India currently. The growth in IoT is tremendous, as every one of you know, because the digital world, every device has its own chip on the shoulder, literally. So all these chips now can have their own intelligence to some extent, and they can share the real-time data with each other. So it was, as I said, that model of user interacting with the software, hardware components. More than that, now machine-to-machine interfaces, machine-to-machine control flow framework. So it decides the complete your command and control of the whole ecosystem. These kind of systems are more into focus, and especially if this current year, if you see, there are so much of changes even in these kind of whatever the earlier projects were going on, so many of them had to be rethought, because just to give you one example, was like in the Ministry of Defense, we had one project. It was almost like was about to deploy and was about to go in beta testing, but it had a lot of biometric requirements, and the complete deduplication or these activities was based on fingerprints. Now with this COVID situation, the whole project got stalled, because then now we are looking at the multimodal biometrics were present, but as I said, for the security purpose or deduplication purpose, having a fingerprint biometrics was the first choice, and that now has to be rethought, because everywhere you want the less of physical contact, and but at the same time you don't want to compromise on the security of the system. So basically these all things, like the second example I can say in IoT type of system is like in video surveillance. So in the video surveillance or city surveillance, because every smart city had city surveillance projects, and there were so many of cameras, and it was so well defined. Okay, we'll have NPR, we'll have SPV, so speed violation detection or red light violation detection, number plate recognition, and then we had this face recognition, so that not only the traffic control or traffic rule checks, but also the safety security of the city safety point of view also, these cameras could be used. So they were search of blind spots or difficult areas where there is certain tensions, or these kind of areas were identified, and we put the cameras there, and all of them were connected to command control center and so on. But now problem is that with the masks, everybody having the already, as you are aware, the face recognition precision for authentication is much lesser than your iris or fingerprint or either other biometrics. Now with these less means this probability of identifying a person, if you're having a mask on top of that, the whole purpose of this system that was set up with using hundreds of cameras suddenly has gone down. So what I was thinking, unless until you understand what are the business processes, what kind of changes are now coming into the picture, and then providing a technology solution is always going to be a effective or a sustainable solution. So anyway, coming back to some on my first slide only. So modern systems, as I said, they are multidisciplinary. None of the system you can take it as a just IT ICT system without knowing other system it has to integrate. It is especially in IoT type of system, you have to consider every discipline, every engineering domain to give a effective solution. In that, as I said, what kind of issues you can face being a complex system, being multiple components interfacing, as I said, machine to machine as well as machine to human, and so on. Different kind of these permutation combination of interfacing and interoperabilities are going to be already there are a lot of research problems or research challenges are there. And not only research, but even engineering problems or engineering challenges are also there. So from the design perspective and data perspective is what I will just discuss here. There can be many more, but right now we can just have a look at these two because they are more IT ICT methodologies related. Now the next point is about edge computing, because now this topic I was given was IoT and ML. So machine learning is basically totally this driving this edge computing part of IoT. So as I think you all must be aware what is edge computing. So in IoT, when main point is about different things getting connected, sharing their telemetry or their data of the environment, and then there are a lot of analytics have to be run on that to come up with different kind of inferences. Some inferences to prevent certain issues, some inferences helping the policymakers to make the better decisions and so on. So every data streaming in your system has its own purpose as some objective. So edge computing is sorry, is about not having everything centralized or on cloud, but basically try to do the computing or analytics at the edge. So not on the device, maybe because most of the devices, as you know, they are low power, low memory kind of devices. So there can be a layer which is near your edge devices or your field devices. The field devices can be your environment sensors, they can be your cameras, they can be your smart lights and smart street lights and so on. So there are so many field devices in a IoT kind of system. Here example I'm taking of smart city because something all of us have been hearing, something all of us we have been witness to and which is going on for last 3-4 years consistently. So I'll just take that example. and from the project I can relate it also. That's why. So edge computing, why edge computing is important is why, especially when you have these cloud kind of infrastructure which takes care of the elasticity of a system or scalability of a system. Why can't I have everything at the cloud level? Is because then you are compromising on a lot of things, like because your data is streaming from your end device to cloud. So a lot of your latency will come into picture, your security will come into picture, and so on. So basically, wherever I'm receiving the data, if I can analyze it then and there, have my hypothesis created then and there, and take an action, definitely it is the easiest way to or effective way to give a solution to any kind of alert or the event generated at the device end. So that's why edge computing is something which is being thoroughly studied by IoT experts, and edge computing requires machine learning techniques, like it's the base of your edge computing process or edge computing ecosystem deployment. So that's why it came to edge computing. Then we will see a few use cases which currently, as part of smart cities, they are part of every smart city and so on. So we can just look at what kind of interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary components are part of that each use case. And because of these multidisciplinary components, what kind of data variations or data sets variation you receive. Then based on that data set variation, your how this predictability or your machine learning techniques need to be identified, selected, and implemented. And how do that extension of that system, because as I said, for sustainability you should allow the extensibility of the system, adaptability of the system, and so on. So that all things for each use case or each kind of system, they are very extremely different based on, as I said, the type of data arriving in the system as well as the processes required to work on that kind of data, and so on. So we'll go to that. Then a few research challenges which I have come across, which are still open research problems, I will say, because being teaching the academic, yeah, I'm sure you will be interested in looking at the technology level as well as the application domain level. Of course, that's not that they are two different aspects, because again, as I said, every application domain characteristics will decide what kind of technology issues you want to resolve, or what kind of technology solutions you want to provide, and so on. Okay. Sorry. So as I said, IoT is like connecting different objects and adding a level of digital intelligence, enabling them to communicate real-time data without manual intervention. So I think, as I said, every physical device now has its some level of intelligence. It is basically collecting data maybe at different intervals. If it is an environmental sensor, it may be collecting data 5 times or 4 times in a day. But if it is a camera, it is continuously streaming the data. So different kind of data inputs are coming to these devices, and different kind of intelligence level they require if they want to do any analytics at their end. But otherwise they are basically capturing those data and sending it to the hub or the node where the analysis is required to be done. So it's a real-time data, that is what is most important in this, which is getting constantly relayed. Objective is world around, as I said, world is more smarter, more responsive, with less physical intervention, is what is now seeing this year's different events. Definitely that's a highest level of objective we all have now. Machine learning is required for in IoT, or rather it is going to become an integral part of the whole IoT system, because the predictive capabilities have to be integrated with these industrial IoT platforms. So if you have seen already, the Microsoft Azure IoT, Amazon, Google, they all already have these machine learning capabilities or techniques integrated in their platform. So whenever you are using this as a IoT platform, because now every smart city, just to give an example, is that every smart city project has different IT components, and they all are getting integrated with the IoT platform. Why this is required? Because as I said, these data, unless and until they are integrated, they are seen together, if you don't get the complete understanding of the whole city's ecosystem. To give you just one example, again, this is not from a smart city project, but my earlier project which we had proposed to DST and we were working with NCDC. I'm taking this example because it became very relevant in this year's events. So we had we were working on this communicable diseases transmission pattern. So we were trying to study if the climate changes are happening at different data parameters, are they impacting the communicable diseases transmission patterns, because those were the certain discussions in which certain experts we had come across. We did a lot of exploration and we found that there are scientists who have been looking at this kind of research problem. So then the funny part is that we tried to find out, okay, from where can I get the climate data? In Mumbai itself, we just tried to find. So there were 4 organizations which we approached. One was IMD, of course, that is the meteorological department. Then one was Pollution Control Board. Then there was NEERI, that is Environmental Engineering Institute. The head office is in Nagpur, but we have office here in Worli. So these 3 were institutions who have been working on different kind of problems of the climate changes. They are not sharing there, though they have some things overlapping, some things are very specific to their own domain. But when we collected their data from them, all of them were very open to share, but they were not sharing across, it means with each other. Now, when they don't share the data, definitely you don't get the whole picture of that particular domain. It was a single domain about the climate change and these different parameters. So that's why we tried to come up with a model where all these data could be merged, and then we were working with NCDC to find out what kind of communicable diseases are getting transmitted, what are their transmission patterns, and we were trying to overlap, or we were trying to merge with the climate change data. But as I was saying, why this smart city IoT platform was important, because different departments data. Now here we were taking only 4 departments having a data which was closely coupled, which was closely related in some way. But when we talked to NCDC, that time they did say, okay, we will need a lot of other parameters also about the traveling habits, or about the people's movements across in the area where the particular communicable disease is getting transmitted or has more cases and so on. So this data, though it was not mathematically connected, it was definitely having an impact on the transmission pattern. So as I was saying, see, these predictive capabilities depend on lot of these parameters, statistical modeling or statistical parameters, which may not be connected mathematically, but still they have a heavy impact on the the way your data behaves, the way your system behaves, and so on. So that's why machine learning becomes an integral part of IoT, because IoT has a number of systems connected. There are a lot of data coming from all these systems, and to understand how they are related with each other, because especially when you have disaster management as one of the most important area in your smart city, then you have healthcare as the most important data. So all these kind of systems, if you want to be proactive, then you have to have these predictive capabilities with you based on your historical data or the events happening in that particular area, and so on. Now I'm talking about area because for 3 smart cities, the events, the scenarios, the issues were so different. So that's why I was saying these behaviors of this data coming from different systems becomes very, very important. So as I said, the growth of IoT is tremendous. So in 2017, there were around 9 billion IoT devices, and now what they have predicted in 8 years is going to grow 6 times. So it's going to be 55 billion IoT devices which are going to stream the data continuously, and that is what your analytics nodes or analysis, the nodes which are going to be part of predictive analytics has to look at this kind of data. It has to find out how that is related, what kind of inferences you can draw from them, and which will help you in proactive kind of decisions to be taken, and strategies to be implemented, or schemes to be announced for the betterment, because the whole purpose of smart city is to get the quality of life above than what it is currently. Then amount of data generated from these connected devices will exceed 40 trillion gigabytes by 2025. Okay, these are all surveys got from different research groups. I'm not given references here, but if anybody is interested, I can share the references surely. Then so IoT is about intelligent real-time decision making. Real-time makes a lot of sense, or at the same time lot of challenging thing, because it is a big data, or the data coming from different systems in different formats. So, and how do you relate them? What kind of transformations are required if you're going to find interoperability among the systems, and so on. So that's why real-time decision making becomes the biggest part of your problem solution. Edge computing, I think I've already said key advantages of edge computing. It increases operational reliability, because you are near where you want to implement the solution. Faster real-time predictions, increased security, because the data is not traveling very far from where it is being consumed. Challenges are, of course, the cost, form factor limitations, latency, power consumption, and so on. Here, just one example. I don't know, it's about the edge computing, but interoperability definitely is that we had this one of the project was under utilities was smart meters in Mangalore. So smart meters, the smart energy meters and smart water meters, both were the part of these smart city objectives. So the problem, of course, started with how do you what kind of network you can means what kind of connectivity those devices can use to transmit the data to the command control center. So the problem, though we had the same vendor, but the requirement of these devices kind of connectivity requirements was much different. Why? Because smart energy meters were always on near your house, outside in a board or something, but smart water meter was always under the, or not always, many times it was underground. So having a SIM based solution didn't work there, because some could connect, some could not connect. Again, Mangalore is a hilly area. They're having RFID or radio frequency based solution didn't work, because of the line of vision was a lot of times was an issue. So we were going to the LoRaWAN kind of solution. So just to give example is that though the similar kind of domain is there, the requirement of a solution was much different because of ground level reality. So even at the edge computing, even if you are trying to get the device level computing, you have to understand these real world issues which can which becomes a challenge. So even if you have the great configuration for a device and everything, still it's quite possible that the solution may not be that useful. The same actually was happening in the Mangalore City Corporation, was that they had a this biometric solution for a certain access control, but those people or that system had the hard laborers entering and so on. So there they had only chosen the single biometric for authentication, which was fingerprint based. And if you are aware, the laborers' fingerprints are, because there is it's very difficult to get those fingerprint or identify based on those fingerprints because of the hard work they have been doing. So the whole solution had to be dumped, and that much of efforts and the financials just went into it. So that's why the challenges are not only at the technology side, but where you are going to apply that technology and how those problems or that particular rather even solution applied in similar solution in one group doesn't work on the other group. That also can be a challenge you have to look into. IoT in India. So as always, there are 100 smart cities already in process. Lot of problems, and that is also because though it started with a big hopeful some technology, something which we felt is going to change those cities and make something out of it. But again, as I said, sustainability and these kind of gaps or these kind of parameters when they were not seen into at the right time for the right solutions, many or some of them definitely has lot of issues. And that report, if you can read, definitely you can see the biggest part is always the government or always the people are saying okay, there is no enough funding from the government. Here it has become like the whatever the funding was given to the city, they couldn't use it even not even 50% even after 4-5 years. So why? Because the projects which they went into phases, the first phase itself was not thoughtful implementation, and that is why then later phases could not proceed. Already those smart city SPVs, special purpose vehicles, which are supposed to run the whole mission, they are already in issues. So basically, but still people are trying, still everybody is trying to find the how to resolve whatever the issues are and so on. So basically we are in high momentum of IoT in India. That is 100 smart cities are already in implementation. Now the next or it's already they have started working on 300 clusters of smart villages. So of course whatever the IoT requirement of city and IoT requirement of a village are going to be totally different, and they are trying to, I think currently what in the POC there are 5 clusters across 5 states which they have identified, and there is some POC going on in there. Based on that they will come up with the projects and so on. The next is Make in India, as you are aware, Atmanirbhar Bharat. So it's actually industrial revolution as at the technology level. If I can comment on that, it is an industrial revolution 4.0. Why? Because of IoT. So as the first industrial revolution was like when from manual to machine you went, then it went from the transport part of it, then it was the assembly line part of it. So industrial 4.0 is about the cyber physical systems, it's about the IoT, and that is what everybody is now trying to adapt their whether it's a manufacturing unit, whether there is a supply chain management system and so on. They are trying to find key whether without as less as manual intervention can we have a complete machine to machine interaction and the delivery of the goods or the products. So they are highly intelligent connected systems that create a fully digital value chain and so on. So just to kick right now in India, though, we don't have autonomous vehicles, which is not because seeing the scenario, as I said, key scenario is very important. Doesn't you cannot have those kind of vehicles or those kind of components in India, but in US or in some other countries, the mining is completely done by the autonomous trucks, and so there where you are lot of physical lives are getting impacted. There is a critical system of mining that they have tried to replace by the autonomous vehicles to avoid those kind of life loss and so on. So they are all highly intelligent connected systems that create a fully digital value chain. Cyber physical production systems that integrate communications, IT data and physical elements. That's what IoT is about. In India, the level of digitization is lesser than the global average, but we are getting towards it. So I think most of these terms or most of these are actually the pillars of the current modern systems. So every system is not a single system. Every system is a system of systems. So even if you take a transport management system, it is it has to be connected to your power grid. Your power grid is connected to your some ERP. Your ERP is connected. So basically, if you see, there are so many domains, so many of disciplines of engineering, they are working together in harmony. Then only your single system can work. So they are whenever you are designing one, it cannot be thought or designed only in its individual capacity. It has to be thought about all the interfaces, not only the, because right now we have been designing softwares with the interfaces of the users or the other software system it is going to integrate it with, but now it is going to be some civil system, it's going to be some other IT system, some other electrical systems, and so on. These are all, again, as I said, multidisciplinary system. Wireless sensor network is becomes one of the pillar for that. Data mining, that allows machine learning, basically, again, as I said, because predictive modeling is totally depends on the kind of data, kind of what sequential patterns you find, what are their associative rules in that. So different kinds of data mining you have to do to understand the relations between the different data parameters. And machine to machine communication is going to grow now. Along with this, now geographical or spatio-temporal data is going to be very important, because they become the most important parameters of these systems. So whatever the geotagging, which will tell me the location of that particular system or from where the data is getting relayed, so that kind of these data become the cross-cutting concerns, we call them, key or aspects we call them, which are going to be present in every kind of modern system. They are going to be collaborative. As I said, individually single system is not going to work neither at design time, neither in your execution time. Then it is not only the system design and implementation, you require very standard operating procedures. So even in our smart city project, when there are almost 30 components or 30 systems connected to your command control center, every system has to have a standard operating procedure for itself, plus for every interface with the other stakeholder or other department data, whichever it is using, and giving its data for their usage. So those standard operating, without them, none of your control flows, none of your workflows are going to work. So that's that key. For city surveillance, we said okay, city surveillance cameras were used for your traffic control for sure, but also they were used from the security perspective. So when it is connected to security perspective, there it can be used for your disaster management. So whatever the video analytics or image analysis you are going to put on that, which identifies that there is some tree has fallen. Suppose, just giving a simple example, suppose because Mangalore, that becomes a very, because it's a area where the rains are very heavy, and whenever these issues come, and that road can be the road which is leading to the major hospital, a lot of issues may arise. So these cameras, when they are connected to or they are relaying their data to my analytics node. From there, it may have to connect to your disaster management. From disaster management, it requires connecting with your emergency services, such as the health, your police, your fire station, your district magistrate office, and so on. So these all, if they are not integrated, if they are not standard operating procedures defined for their data, what you say, communication data or information processing, then the solution doesn't occur. So despite of setting up such high level infrastructure, the solution at the ground level never comes. So because for that, these becomes very important components of any modern system. Then, as I said, design integration is very important. Like a simple project like say smart road. So in smart road, if you are going to have your electric lines, your communication lines, part of your smart road design, then definitely you cannot have the integration only at the end where it is reactive, saying okay, now I have this requirement, now so design level integration for all these systems as it makes them effective. Data translation, as I said, data coming from different kinds of devices in different formats, but if you want to relate them, they have to be some translation, some transformation, so that they can be related with each other is what is important. 24/7 monitoring from the device perspective, not you don't have to have a manual intervention for that, that doesn't serve the purpose. Information security, definitely that becomes again a very important because so much of data is getting connected, so much of data has so many different endpoints. Because when you say integration, it sounds good, but at the same time it adds the overhead of adding those many endpoints or those many entry points for your data sets. So then information security from the privacy perspective, from the people's safety perspective becomes a very big issue. Then prediction and prevention. So it is the whole these kind of infrastructure setup, whole these processes, why are they implementing? So that it is never a reactive thing, but it is always a prediction and prevention of a disaster, and that will only be able to get the right purpose to such a system. So this is just an example for a multidisciplinary. So if you say factory automation network, there is robotics involved into that, and naturally it has a high precision parameters which are very important here. Integration of different components, security of the system, and wireless connectivity. These become, so this is just an example. I'm not going to go through each of them. This is just an example. Any kind of system, if you see, they have a different kind of components and different kind of quality parameters, and data behavior needs to be looked at. So should I take a question right now, because it's just that I feel I'm sitting here alone and talking. If anybody wants to say anything, please, I can take a 5 minutes break. Hello?
Ma'am, there are no questions.
Okay. Fine. So I'll go ahead. So basically multidisciplinary systems engineering is what is your IoT requires. There are different kinds of research and development issues you need to consider. There are system technology, current versus future tech. Means it's not only, it doesn't have to be only the current system technology which you need to consider, but you have to have a certain vision for what kind of future technologies will are going to come. So based on that, your design of this the current system needs to be ready for it in a way. The complexity, usability are definitely again an important factors here. Human engineering, because even if you say ki there is as less manual intervention required, but at the same time the stakeholders or the users or the quality of life of humans are which are the end result which we require, so that they become the most important part of it. So all these circles where they overlap, that's where your multidisciplinary systems engineering is going to be applicable or useful or effective. Okay. So I think these kind of design issues you may also have realized, or you may have worked on. Actually, just if nobody wants a question, I want to ask one question is like, what is you are looking at in IoT? Like, what kind of, are there any projects which you are working on, or are you looking at taking up these kind of projects for the students or something? What is the objective of this particular exploration of this area? Anybody? I don't know anybody's name, so I'm just going to. I just know. I think Smita is one of the person. Might. So, is there any particular objective of finding these IoT applications as your area of interest right now? Everybody is left, or have put everybody to sleep? Hello? So, anybody there?
Yes, madam, all are there.
Okay. So, can you? No, I said I understand. This, afternoon sessions are always very dangerous ones, and
But ma'am, it's good content. We are listening.
yeah, I hope so. But just an ye question from my side, like, means is there any particular requirement at your end, or is there anything which you are looking for, so that I can also understand ki why IoT is currently you are looking at?
Ma'am, actually, in engineering, IT department, third year students having the subject. So they are going to plan to design the many real-time projects. So they have the mini project concepts. So we come to know that what exactly needed for your smart city, what the problems you are facing for the smart city. Like you're saying, the data storage is there, connectivity issues are still there, because day by day the number of devices we are connecting online, it increasing. So we are definitely facing these problems.
Right.
So we want the solutions, and we want to know that what exactly we're supposed to give the solutions, or what the problem statements we can propose to the students.
Okay. You just, yeah. Okay, so coming to the design issues which we have come across in last couple of years at the different smart city things, is a real-time system design is always an issue. As I said, the data storage, how much data you need to keep, how much you're going to, what is the frequency of sending the data, in what size to the hub, or maybe to the command control center for the analysis, or what kind of analysis you do at the edge level, at the device level, and so on. Like if it is a ANPR and RLVD kind of thing. So basically you may have to do the analysis then and there, and capture the number plate and send it to the command control center or RTO application, and so on. So real-time system design is has a lot of design issues from the data storage perspective. Connectivity, again, the connectivity, though we feel the mobile reachability is there in every part of India, but still there are areas, as I said, due to the physical, their limitations, geographical issues, this different kind of events like flooding, or it can be there is still the electricity issues, a lot of like, for example, I can say again from Mangalore is the thing, just because this is recent, it's coming in Mangalore. In Karnataka, there are 7 smart cities which were listed across the 3 lists of smart cities. So when we try to find, and every city was supposed to have their own command control center. Having a command control center is a investment of a large hardware infrastructure, because you will have DC, you will have DR, you need storage, you need disaster recovery solution, and every city, if they were going to have for their own purpose, and many things which are anyway overlapping, like the state level government applications or state level government department services, everybody was using the same thing. Then why was this command control center, or so much of infrastructure investment has to happen at 7 times? So when we discuss with the NIC officials of at Bangalore at the capital level, so that time they said, in Bangalore itself we have three data centers. So if you set up at Mangalore, the most funny part is that Mangalore has a lot of power issues. So whatever you're going to have these generators and so on, that is going to cost you tremendously. Rather, having a dedicated connectivity between Mangalore and Bangalore is much cheaper. So you can reuse the infrastructure set up in Bangalore, because there are not one but there are 3 state level data centers, and then connectivity can be of that higher level, is that, so that you don't need to have the repetition of setup, and at the same time reuse of something which is already there. So connectivity is still a very easy thing to happen, seeing the SWAN project, or every state was supposed to have that is a statewide area networks. Then there are connectivity at all these grids, which again government has working on. There is NKN, then there are so much of connectivity schemes and projects are there, but still there are gaps, and due to different kind of problems. So they still become one part of your design issues. Then again, connectivity, if suppose I have the connectivity or application, the whatever the text level or that kind of data transmission is much easier. But if I have a video streaming which I need to transmit, then that becomes a higher bandwidth wastage. So that's why what kind of connectivity where you require the data to be stored and so on becomes a part of your design issue. Then time sensitive networking protocols. So our networking protocols currently are majorly from the reliability perspective. If your packet doesn't reach, you do retransmission and so on. But time sensitive protocols is something now people are working tremendously there, which is going to work only on the latency, and which has the very fixed interval within which your packet has to be transmitted and so on. Then data analytics on streaming data leading to predictive modeling. So as I said, it's not a analysis on the historical data. Okay, it has to be a real-time data analysis, because a lot of events, when they are identified, alerts are generated. If you don't give the solution immediately, that is not what this whole setup of cutting edge infrastructure setup purpose is. Okay, if it is something which is again going to be reactive based on manual intervention, then the whole purpose of this mission becomes zero. So analytics on streaming data and that predictive modeling, taking an inference or taking immediate action or facilitating the right authorities to take action again is very important. And data storage and disaster recovery. As I said, okay, if I'm storing the data which is real time, continuous, 24/7, in that what is the useful data, what is not useful data, what I need to have replicated, what I need to have persisted, and everything, especially disaster recovery of those data sets is very still the design issues, as I said, are there, because a lot of replication of things are happening. Reuse is not done that, because this, as I said, for these 3 departments, they are not ready to share the data. The similar kind of possessiveness or similar kind of decisions across the different hierarchy of governments or different hierarchy of departments is seen, and because of that, things are the infrastructure components are created but not used effectively. Now continuing with design issues, the big data analytics. Now here the analytics are of different level. There is text analytics, audio analytics, video analytics, social media analytics, like where sentiment kind of analysis is done. Predictive analytics, of course, is there. In this big data analytics, I had come across a very interesting system or interesting problem solved by Singapore government. I don't know if you have heard about InSync. It was a incentive scheme the Singapore Transport Department had published for the citizens. But before coming to that InSync or that incentive scheme, there was a exercise conducted for more than 6 months by Stanford, then University of California at Irvine, and Singapore government, and so on. So, and I had heard about one of the person, Professor Balaji Prabhakar, giving this whole example. So it was very interesting in say, okay, when we think that okay, for an effective solution we require a lot of infrastructure setup, that doesn't is not required every time. So what they did was that, like, as you know, in Singapore is a small country, and the traffic and traffic congestion had become their big problem. So how do we resolve that? For that, what they did was they integrated their all public transport systems, like whether it is metro or train or their bus transport, whatever. All those systems they integrated, or they pulled the data from from all those systems into one system. Plus, they put the cameras at all those roads where the congestions were continuous, and which had led to the higher fuel consumption, which had led to the more number of accidents, and less productivity on the people's part, and so on. So they took all those numbers, and then after putting those cameras, there was the video was coming video. The streams had again done they did analysis on that. So there were a lot of big data analytics model they created to take all these public transport as well as the traffic habits of the people, which they generated by mining that data, and they came up with a different kind of model. So what they did was that whoever was traveling, they tried to give them just a half an hour option of delaying it or going early. So what they did is, suppose if you are traveling by a 5 o'clock train, you take the 5:30 train, then you get 5 points in your card. So everybody got their cards, and you can create this incentive by just deviating their travel habits. So these travel habits, the patterns of people's travel habits, they could create, or they could infer from the whole big data analytics part of it. And when people started using them, because half an hour was always, if you getting, as you all know, okay, it's free something, or we getting my points, and then I can buy a ticket on that, then people started using those kind of incentives, and that reduced their traffic or congestion by 30%, and their fuel consumption by 20%, and the number of accidents also. I don't remember the percentage of that, but all the things which were very important, they could deviate it without creating a single new road or a bridge or any other kind of public transport channel. They didn't have to do just a simple incentive scheme. Why? Because these techniques of your machine learning, data mining, which understands where the issues can be resolved in an innovative way. So when I saw big data analytics, I remember his lecture, and he's that system. But the irony of it is that they did this system, they have all the numbers proving this, but then that scheme is not in force currently. So I don't know about reason about that, because when we had talked at time, that scheme was in force, and now when I try to find out what is the new numbers, what are their new metrics of improvement, but that scheme is no more available. So that is what I meant, okay, if there is no sustainability in your scheme or sustainability in your solution, then somehow things come back to zero or whatever. Of course, there's a learning from that, but then why it cannot, a simple effective solution, why cannot it sustain? So again, that may certain as a scenario you understand, problem you understand, but if you miss on one important parameter, then it may not sustain for very long. Okay, so in the design issues, big data analytics, as I said, all these now as you know, for analytics, it's very easy to say, okay, there are so many technologies available, but at the same time, what is the correctness of the base data, what is the completeness of the data, so that my analytics can come up with a correct inferences. Otherwise, with a wrong understanding of data or the wrong corpus or wrong parameters behavior, if you capture those rules, can lead to totally different hypothesis and totally wrong inferences and so on. So there is always challenging key what kind of data you are using, what kind of analysis you are running. So actually we'll see a small quick look into the taxonomy of your machine learning algorithms. And there are so many machine learning algorithms, but still which algorithm you can use where and why becomes again a decisive point for what kind of results you're going to get from them. So that's why analytics is always a challenging thing. There can be design issues into that if your correctness and completeness in your model are missing somewhere. Interoperability, again everywhere everybody says that interoperability, okay, I'll have a web service and my everything becomes interoperable. So one example here, not of smart city, I can give for the NSDG. We had a national e-governance service delivery gateway. That was one of the mission mode project of Ministry of IT, and we had done it from like defining the standards, designing and developing it, deploying in that system is in production since 2008 now, so almost 12 years now. But still, it is every time a department has to be in, because this was a service delivery gateway, so it was a messaging middleware developed for government departments, which they can have the service integrations at single point. So there don't have to be again and again integrations for those services and so on, plus authentication or audit logging, all those kind of activities which are anyway repeatable across your services, that was offloaded at the gateway level. This was the NSDG. So there we were talking, okay, we have used SOA type of SOA service oriented architecture, we have used web services, so we can integrate with anything. But every initial in the first, because as I said, for interoperability standards were we had defined, and based on that those services were required to be integrated. But within first year itself, the first two departments which we had to EBIS and the MCA, we had so many issues that we needed to change the protocol twice. So despite of having the best having from scratch development, it was not that we were using some messaging middleware and customizing so that we fall short of integration. No, but basically that time, and that was because at the process level somewhere they were required polling multiple times, so there has to be resend, has to happen at particular logic requirement of that department and so on. So there we require the change at the protocol levels. When you say about protocol level, it becomes your core component. If your core component requires update, what kind of interoperability, even if I have a web services which can integrate at the REST or at the any other protocol, it doesn't make sense because I'm changing the core component of my system. So not having only technology or the which language, which version, which it doesn't make sense unless and until you understand the integration at the process level or the design level. Security, again, I have already described, there are so many data getting integrated and so much of we are getting integrated, we want them integrated because we can have the better understanding of the whole system and not everything in silos. But at the same time, it adds the overhead of the information security breaches and as I said, multiple endpoints, multiple entry points, and that is what the one of the concerns or design issues in the modern systems. Or so now coming to this is what I had tried to, what is IoT. It requires multidisciplinary engineering understanding. It requires different kind of data behavior, process behavior understanding. So that is thing. Now what is the machine learning can do with IoT is what I will just have a touch upon, is that IoT devices transmit different kinds of data. One thing is the metadata, so for data about the device itself. So that is again is that is available for me to do any kind of learning from. Then there is state information. The state of the device is what it can share. The telemetry is the data which is supposed to be capturing by that device, by the sensors within that device, and so on. The commands, what commands that device has run, that kind of data also is available for my machine learning. And operational information, so what kind of operations have taken place with the device and its environment is basically. So these different kinds of data are always available from every IoT device to me. Because when I want to do machine learning, or I want to understand what kind of algorithms I need to use, because what I'm expecting from that data, for that I have to understand what is the data, what kind of data I'm going to get. So that's why I'm just segregating, or basically classifying what kind of data I can receive in the IoT infrastructure or IoT environment. And the next step, of course, for machine learning, as you are aware, you split the data for training and for verification. Try to find out using different kinds of algorithm based on that data behavior. Okay, try to find out what are the anomalies, what are the correlations, what are the projections, and lead to a hypothesis based on these different behavioral characteristic of data. Then hypothesis needs to be tested and validated, and that validated model becomes the executable endpoint. The trained model and data streaming, that is when the trained model becomes the basis for validation or basis for inferencing. So, and the data, which are the real-time data, will be streaming to that model to find out the different states of the environment. This is the machine learning in the IoT, which is pretty standard process in a way. Okay, so IoT data characteristics, as I said, it's a big data. Why big data? Not because of only the magnitude. I think normally people talk about big data means it's just the size of the data, but more than the volume, it is the variety of the data, their formats of that data, their interdependencies, interrelations among different kind of data components, and so on. The velocity is like what kind of frequency that data is getting updated or transmitted. So that whole thing at the big data level is the IoT data. That is one of the characteristics. That's why it's a challenging environment. The data quality. The data. Okay. The second article is data quality. So where is the redundancy? So if there is a redundancy, there is always an issue with the a consistency, inconsistency, or accuracy. Dynamicity, how dynamically the data is getting updated. Granularity of data, like whether to what level, what kind of decomposition of that data component I can have. So all these data quality of IoT data needs to be into consideration when you are doing kind of mining and so on, or machine learning. The data usage, like whether the semantic is important, whether it is complete, because unless until, as I said, if this becomes very important, what kind of noise it has, what is the lack of completeness parameters, whether I can have the right semantic from that about that data's behavior. Otherwise, as I said, I can get a totally wrong inferences from the analytics. So this is understanding the data on which I require to use these machine learning algorithms so that I can have different models in place. So I think I'm not going to go in details of each of these algorithm. I'm sure you're well aware of them better than me, because I have not used I'm not been doing programming for years now, but at least definitely. So so as you can, the main point here is like this taxonomy of machine learning algorithm. Major part is that you have so many of classification, so many algorithms for classification. So basically the supervised learning and unsupervised learning, what we say. So classification and clustering and so on. So there are so many of them for the same purpose, but still it's the based on the data, choosing the right one or choosing, it's quite possible not the single one. You may require to use more than one to get the right kind of understanding, because this data has so many layers which have the overlaps. Like in a GIS system, you say in a geographical data, you have so many layers within that GIS itself, which talks about different parameters of that GIS system. So similarly, that's just a one simple example which is closely coupled system. But when you have a system which has multiple parameters, multiple system components itself, then using a single algorithm or identifying the particular variation within a small set of parameters doesn't work. So different, based on the different data behaviors, you may have to choose these algorithms very sensibly, very intelligently, so that you can get the right inferences. So again, this is kind of, so now in IoT or smart city use cases, which kind of machine learning algorithm? So we just learned the kind of for which data processing task, what kind of algorithm is has the objective of, and now these algorithms for IoT use cases, which you can use effectively, and that has that choice has been made because of the data behavior of that particular use case. Like for certain smart traffic, so if you want to go for a traffic prediction, okay, because traffic survey, traffic prediction is very much required. Suppose I want to go for, because this is again was an open issue, was about congestion pricing. So as you know, in a if I want to restrict the traffic or have evenly distributed traffic across different smart roads of my city, then I have to have the right prediction, so that I can apply the congestion pricing in a such a way is that nobody gets overloaded by paying the toll and again and again, and others also, nobody can escape that pricing. And at the same time, suppose somebody who can use alternate roads and avoid that because they don't want to pay the toll, then that can reduce or that can regulate my traffic in those particular roads which are congested, and but at the same time they are the roads which are leading to the important destinations, important locations, and so on. So just this is like an example is that's why traffic prediction has, the data has, or the traffic survey data has a certain characteristics, but your weather forecasting, that kind of data will have a different kind of characteristic. Like initially we were thinking of having multiple environment sensors, but when we talk to the expert, they said, if this kind of a sensor or weather station you are implementing, your 40-kilometer area is anyway covered. That kind of variations are captured by the single weather station. So that's why, but then at the same time, with a single sensor or single weather station, can I get the different variations? Are those variations important for the calculation of impact, and so on? Again, becomes an important consideration when I'm creating my model. So this is again, I'm not going to go in every, this is just to give you an idea. Again, this is from a paper. It was a very good paper which talks about the taxonomy of ML algorithms, which had in my, the same paper reference is there. So you can, it's a 2018 paper, not very old one. It's from Science Direct. You can, it is open. You can check that. So this was a very good text taxonomy I found, which I could relate to based on my experiences. Okay, we are already at 3:20, right? 3:15. Okay. So I want to take some questions. I don't know whether anybody has, but I'll just go quickly through. So these are, as I said, different algorithms which we saw earlier. What kind they work on, what kind of data based on their data patterns is what I have just listed. It was very interesting to see why the two classification algorithms work effectively on one kind of data and not another kind of data, and so on. So you can definitely relate those algorithms kind of data if you can find out how that data must be behaving. So I think it's very easy to, not very easy, but it's very interesting to see why those algorithms or those were chosen for working on these kind of data. Okay, so edge computing, I'm not again going to think, we have talked a lot about it, but as I said, edge computing doesn't mean the analysis has to happen at the device level. So devices are connected through a gateway, so there is always an edge computing layer which is little above your devices, but at the same time it is much far from your centralized server or your cloud and so on. The GPUs, machine learning models like required for your parallel processing, because as I said, this is a big data. If you want to do analysis of a large GP, then definitely you require a lot of parallel processing infrastructure. So GPUs, machine learning models trained in the cloud are pushed to the edge for inferencing. That is like, this is the characteristics of edge computing I'm saying. And machine learning becomes a driver for edge computing. So when you say edge computing, you have to have your machine learning models very well defined, as they will lead to low latency, low energy consumption, scalability, because naturally you can, based on your expansion, you can have multiple devices, and your edge layer can, somewhere it can merge with the existing one, or somewhere I can create the new layers and so on. So security and privacy also, because your data is not traveling very far, it is just traveling from the device to your edge computing layer, so naturally your security privacy has a lower risk of breach. Then this is serverless computing, so you are not, as I said, DC and DR setups for these kind of systems had become a redundant and large infrastructure, which again nowadays, if you see within 6, 7, 8 years, your whole server level infrastructure becomes obsolete. So what do you do with that kind of infrastructure then? So instead of that, if you can have as much as serverless computing, if it is not required, definitely it is a welcome change to these redundant systems or obsolete systems and so on. Importance of interoperability. So because you are having the analysis near your devices, as your devices get upgraded, or as they evolve and so on, adding them to your system is much easier because of your edge computing. Because otherwise what happens, that your server level has to integrate with different kind of devices. If they are evolving, it's quite possible at some point your server level infrastructure is not interoperable with that, and that can have a compatibility issues. So here you are adding that layer of analysis between them. So that becomes a functions as a service, integration platform as a service, both you can provide in these kind of ecosystem or architecture. So just I think I'll quickly, there are some 5 use cases I had said, but I think most of them I have discussed while if one we can just look into, like your intelligent traffic and transport management. As I said, it's not only the having the website or portal which gets displayed in your smart bus shelter, so that your passengers can see which is the next bus coming, or what is the percentage of occupancy in that bus, or what are the travel or tourist spots, or other events in the city. These kind of components have been implemented in your intelligent transport management. But at the same time, as I said, in a multidisciplinary part, or the sustainability you have to see, then your infrastructure design also becomes part of it. So kind of your bus shelter, then how do you have this integration of your GPS on the bus, or do we have these any other like as I said, occupancy sensor? How do they integrate with different kind of systems? The smart roads will have a different IT components, cameras will be there and so on. So it's along with your IT components, you need to see the infrastructure design which should support your technology and whatever the processes you are planning to implement, workflows you are planning to create. For that, your infrastructure has to support. Otherwise, as I said, sustainability becomes otherwise the issue. Then there is a vehicle tracking system. There is GIS that becomes one of the part of your intelligent traffic or transport management. Traffic congestion analysis pricing, traffic surveillance, RFID based, camera based, it can be any kind of surveillance. Like suppose I want to create a green channel, so I can have RFID based means on the emergency vehicles and so on. So where the detector is at the signal end, so it creates the green channels and so on. Then again, along with that, there are e-governance systems which I need to integrate. So if there is a traffic rule break, then I have to connect it to your vehicle registration database. From there, I should be able to generate the challan, and which needs to be submitted to your email or the mobile and so on. So basically, here it is not only the IoT devices, but they need to get connected with your backend services of your government departments and everything. Again, and in intelligent transport, again, emergency response is very important, because if those disasters are not taken care of, then the whole system setup, as I said, that because critical systems or critical events are always the priority of any kind of administration. So this was one of the use cases. Again, I was planning to take what kind of data goes from each of them, but I think somewhere or the other on the way we have discussed what kind of data will be part of each of these subsystems, and the whole system again becomes a system of systems, and then this system become part of your smart city, because this data again is going to be the input to your decision maker, saying okay, what kind of traffic, what kind of travel habits, what kind of issues, critical or accidents are happening, where the disasters are happening, everything I can capture from these systems only, and so on. So I'll not go in details, because I think we have already understood or already seen what kind of different components are part of each of these systems: city surveillance, emergency response, disaster management, factory automation, and these are actually not part of the smart cities as of now, because normally when they think that okay, agriculture has to be with a rural so when for Mangalore we had suggested to their SPV that okay, because Mangalore has a lot of agricultural activities and so on, said no, this is a smart city project, we are not including the agriculture components here. So that was not didn't happen that way, but again that itself has a lot of components within itself. And we had done a rule based or expert system for northeast agriculture, and it was being used. Again, as I said, sustainability is everywhere has been the issue. The reasons have been different, but still. So just quickly, if I can, what open research challenges I feel at technology level are there? Is sustainability is a very large word, so where different kind of parameters can come into picture, but self-sustainability, like as I said, if suppose congestion pricing is something which I can implement, then the project itself is generating certain revenue which ensures my IT or my infrastructure support continues. Then the system grows, it gets enhanced based on different change into rules or policies and so on. Anyway. So self-sustainability or autonomous system, that we call it, that is again a very important open research challenge. Edge computing, as I said, okay, there are a lot of talks, but when you are going to implement that, as I said, smart meters, we had a tough time in getting the whole design in place. So unfortunately, then it was taken up by the state level for all the cities. So, but at least we were happy that we could give the right input to the state government. So then it has a lot of open research challenges, as I said, based on the geographical parameters, based on the, okay, that was for the meter perspective, but similarly edge computing for different kind of devices has different kind of challenges. Data security, privacy, as I said, is always an overhead when you have integrations at high level as well as low level. So big data storage analytics, because as I said, the kind of data you will be getting is variable from the every form and every way. So then having analysis on that kind of data, relating or interlinking them basically is always an open challenge. Video analytics, because the one of the research project based on the, because Mangalore has a certain areas which are very communally sensitive areas, having the multiple religions being part of that city. So we were wanted to have that kind of video analytics where proactively a disaster can be avoided and so on. But then again, there still means when we were talking to the home minister, that forensic department of it, so they were planning to procure an internet something which was not Indian product, and they said ki for Indian behaviors, that software didn't work correctly. Because what happens is that when you are doing video analytics, at time the way certain actions, they become a part of your pattern to find out whether whatever that event is a normal event, is a happy event, is a problematic event, and so on, whatever the classification you want to do. So in that, what happens is that you need somebody from the having those rules, understanding what kind of actions will happen in an Indian scenario, which was not very useful from whatever product they were procuring, and they had stopped the procurement. Of course, we didn't go ahead, it didn't happen into the implementation part of it. But again, that's a quite a important research challenge, and that has a lot of open issues. If you, there are a lot of research papers about them. From the application domain perspective, agricultural mechatronics, and now especially when the smart village is our next step, they'll become the most important part of it. Actually, just to give you one example here is we have working on a proposal for DST, especially where women technology parks are supposed to be proposed, and Gadchiroli is the area we were looking at. So there they were saying ki how they could simple device manifestation can have lot of impact on their productivity. So they had this sericulture or the silkworm thing. So there, these kind of challenges are, there are so many open that will facilitate those people to earn a better livelihood and have a better quality of life. And so, okay, congestion pricing, again it's an open-ended, because based on the entry and exit points of roads, congestion pricing only works on highways. Inside the city, still there should be a solution which needs to be thought about, which is an still open research problem. Smart meters, again as I said, disaster management, because smart meters is from the communication perspective, and disaster management, emergency response have lot of research gaps and so on. So behavior analysis is basically, as what I was saying, is an open issue as of now. So I think that is covers what the experiences what I wanted to share. I hope I have not bored you a lot. So if you have any questions, but otherwise I think.
Yes, ma'am. There are questions.
Sure.
The first question is, what are the economic impact of the increased applications of IoT? What are the economic impacts of the increased applications of IoT?
Okay. If you want to set up this kind of infrastructure, it's definitely it's going to be a investment. But as I said, it is definitely depends on the what is the benefit you are going to get out of it. So benefit from the economic perspective, so as I said, suppose like it's agriculture mechatronics, and what they made was a simple machine where their productivity could be increased 5 times. A single person. It was a small thing. What that was, STRC is the in government institution which is working on these kind of solutions. So it's definitely, when you're making that, you have to have an investment, but at the same time, if the benefit is crossing that, benefit is basically from the impact perspective as well as from the financial perspective, is going to create such a product that which will be used by many others. So then that becomes a trade-off in a way. As much as you go for automation, your investment is going to increase, but at the same time, that automation, if it is generating that much of revenue, then it captures that kind of issues. But as I said, if it is not sustainable, then it becomes a whether you can get the ROI on your investment or no is what needs to be seen.
Ma'am, next question is, what are the recent trends in cloud and IoT security?
Trends in breaching the security or what kind of solutions provisioning? Yeah, I think security is something which I'm not. I mean, I'm not a information security expert, but definitely trends. If I see, I think you need to. I can get this question to my right person who is the information security expert, and I can get back to you for surely.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. No problem. And one more question is there. Yeah. What are the economic impacts of the increased applications of IoT? Can you give any growing case study related on this? Any growing case study for the economic impact?
Economy means when you have generated revenue, you are saying ki when you can government got returns on whatever infrastructure they have set up is what you are asking.
They mention only that only economic impact means maybe they want to ask you that ki our governments will be support.
In the smart as I said ki when the smart city started, they said okay, the government is going to give 100 crores to each of the city, and other 100 crores they have to generate from the other schemes or having the overlap with the existing schemes and so on, and plus they have to generate the revenue such that they can, because this was for 5 years, and after 5 years they had to do the self-sustenance. So the reality is that they, as I said, ki nobody has been able to use that kind of investment what was given to them also. I don't know, again they had lot of different perspectives on that, and they had lot of different aspects from the political agendas or the administration constraints or the and so on. But main point is economic impact, if it is done by a smart city or no. I doubt. As of now, at least whatever the picture I have seen in now, it's not that effective. Whatever the investments have done, I have seen very few ones, but of course, as I said, even if you don't consider smart city as a that I talk about STRC, they're working in Gadchiroli, and what kind of projects they have done. That has a tremendous impact. They are not part of any smart city, but still it's an IoT only in a way, right? Because they are talking, putting a lot of devices for those people to earn their livelihood. So, in a way, that's. But again.
Okay, ma'am. That's it only. Okay. Now, I like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Ujjwala Vora Madam for giving such a nice sessions on the topic of IoT with machine learnings. Ma'am discuss about lot of case studies. For example, the smart city, we have the traffic management issues. So many issues are there. So you discuss about their case study. You are working on that. It's very good, ma'am. And I like to say that the token of appreciations, I'm presenting one virtual memento for you, ma'am. Please accept this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Now I want to say something to the participants. The feedback form link is posted in the question and answer chat box. Everyone, please fill up that feedback form. And after filling that, then you will get the attendance and you will get the certificates. And after this, please join the next session within 2 minutes. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you so much.
Such a nice session. Very happy. You are the alumni also from our college.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.